Welcome back to another episode, guys. Today we are doing a follow-up video in our Nebraska food plot. This is the one we've been discussing for the last few weeks. We're going to be talking about how it's looking. We'll talk about planting dates, kind of time of season, things like that. Our food plot's germinated. Turnips, kale, radish, everything's come up, looking good. There is some patchy little green spots of clover in here that the herbicide application did not get rid of, and that is totally fine. It's not going to matter. These brassicas are growing really well, and they'll compete with that clover soon enough and take over. So for the most part, no weeds in here, just some clover and brassicas, which is great. We've got a little bit of diversity. We will be coming back through here and adding our cereal grain in here probably 4 or 5 weeks from now. We'll let these brassicas go for a little bit. We're going to put down 50 pounds of urea today, right before this rain, just like we were discussing last week. We got a pretty good shower coming, so it's all about timing. Everything is about timing when it comes to planting, and that brings up the topic of when should you plant brassicas, and some things that I've thought about over the years, changed, kind of tweaked. When it comes to brassicas, it's kind of a balancing act between how big do you want the plant to get and not letting it become unpalatable. That being said, I don't know that I'm overly concerned with that. Seeing that I've seen deer eat sticks, so I don't think they're going to stray away from a green food source in October that's full of moisture. But also at the same time, I do time my brassicas and my rye. I like my rye young, short, tender. It's very attractive to the deer. So it's all about balance. You're trying to create a food source at a time where things are starting to defoliate, things are drying out, there's less green food, and you're trying to build an attractive food source that's going to go from September all the way through maybe December or January. So here in the central part of Illinois, what I've found to be the best for me is that I plant late July, and it can fluctuate. I'm not going to say like July 22nd. Maybe one year it's July 18th or 16th. And that's going to be dependent on weather. I'm not going to miss a week of heavy rain showers just to say, well, I need to wait another week because, that's the planting date on the seed bag. That's not a good way of going about it. It's going to wind up costing you by following those dates that religious. You need to be smart about it. Maybe don't come in late June and plant it. But if it's been dry during the spring and you start catching some wet weather in the summer, I'd rather get these things established on the early side. That way, if we do have another dry period, they're established. It's a lot harder to get a seedling going when it's super dry than it is a plant that's already been established, that you've added some nitrogen to, maybe you've come through with some kind of, liquid application, things of that nature. I would way rather be on that side than the side of too late, it's too dry. And not to mention, I do want the leaves on these brassicas to get full. I want it to be a good food source. I do want the bulbs to get full. I want a late season food source. So I'm not going to get so hung up on, maybe planting a little bit too early. That's never burned me. But what has burned me is planting too late. So that's just my opinion on it. We've got, a quality food source established. It's a late July now. We're getting more rain, which is great. That's another thing to talk about. When it comes to, doing like a urea application, you want your brassicas to get, a couple inches tall, and then you want to time it with a good rain so you don't burn the leaves on these. So as of right now, we got a quality food source. We'll get our nitrogen down, and then in 4 or 5 weeks, we'll come back through here and we'll discuss our rye application when we add rye to this, and we'll start that cycle all over again. But as for next week, we're going to be moving up the hill. We're going to an area we've been removing a lot of invasive species over the last couple of years, and we want to show you guys how you can work on habitat. Not only just improve your food plots, but improve the native habitat as well. Let them work together. If you give deer cover, quality food, water, and low pressure, you're going to have the best property around. I promise you guys, when you have those 3 or 4 things on your property and your neighbors don't, those deer are going to come here. It's all about security cover. It's all about quality food, and it's all about giving them food at the right time. And oftentimes you'll see, a quality food source like a food plot planted, but the habitat's all invasives. There's no quality cover, there's no quality native vegetation for them, and they venture off elsewhere. Especially when you're in areas like we are where we have tons of ag around us. I'm not competing with soybean or cornfields. It's just not going to happen. So I would rather come in here and plant, a quality soil building summer food plot that maybe is not overly attractive to the deer, but it's going to help me build soil, keep from erosion, and keep a quality food plot going in here so that I can rotate that into a fall food source like we did this year. And now, when we roll into deer season, the corn and soybeans are going to get harvested in October, depending on weather. It's probably going to be earlier this year just with how dry it's been. So, we'll have an early harvest, and they're going to transition right to this green. So you'll have that grain to green transfer, and it's going to work out just perfect. Thanks for tuning in on this week's episode, guys. We'll see you next week.